So we've been talking about trailer brakes, and I thought that it would be helpful to go over the components that a electrical trailer brake system has and how they work. So that's what we've got here, and that's what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes. So what I have here is earlier in this presentation we talked about the actual electrical brake unit, and the electrical brake unit is an electromagnet that you deliver power to, and that mechanically causes the brakes to turn on the trailer. So for our purposes in here, this little light right here is going to simulate the power going to our brake magnet, and when the light comes on, that's the indication that the brakes have come on the trailer. If the light comes on bright, that means the brakes have come on hard. If the light comes on dim, that means that you're just putting the brakes on a little bit. So that's going to become evident here as we talk about this a little bit more. So all this is a little marker light. It has a positive and a negative terminal on the back of it, and just think of this as being the magnet in the electrical brake system that is going to cause the electrical brakes to activate on the axle. Okay. From there, moving back to the truck, we're going to keep this really simple at first. Okay, so I'm going to move some of these other components out of the way, and we're going to talk about, just in the very simplest terms, how the electric brakes work. So I have my truck here. This is my miniature truck. I should have got a little Matchbox car or something to put on it to signify that, but this is my truck, and this is a little 12-volt battery, and this is simulating the power that our truck has that's going to deliver the power to the brake system on the trailer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up my couple of jumper wires here, okay? And of course, I've got my ground hooked to the ground circuit of this light, and my positive circuit is not hooked up right now. If I touch this to the power circuit, it obviously lights the light, and it lights the light nice and bright, which means the brakes would come on real hard, just like stomping right on the brake pedal. That would cause the magnet to attract to the drum. With the drum turning, it would mechanically open the brakes up, and it would apply brake pressure to the trailer brakes when I hit it with power. Okay? So in a poor man's operation, if I wanted to make my electrical trailer brakes work, what I could do is I could hook this to my brake pedal lights, or to my brake lights on my car, and when I touch the brake pedal, let's simulate that. Okay, so if I take this red wire here and put it to the power, okay, now we're going to call this my brake pedal, and when I step on my brake pedal and my brake lights come on, it also puts power out to the trailer brakes and applies the trailer brakes. I mean, that is about as simple a concept as we can talk about, right? Well, most vehicles have a brake controller in them that looks like this, and the purpose of the brake controller is to be able to cause the brakes not to just suddenly lock up and come to a screeching halt. The purpose of this brake controller is to be able to sense when you stepped on the brake pedal, and then to be able to control how hard the trailer brakes are going to come on. Okay, so I'm going to wire this up quick. You guys probably don't really need to know how it's wired, but really all I'm doing is I'm hooking one wire to ground, I'm hooking one wire to power, so that the brake controller is powered and grounded. Okay, and then I'm going to hook the blue wire to my brakes. All right, now you can see that nothing is happening currently. Okay, I've got a power supply ran to my brake controller. I've got ground ran to my brake controller. I have ground ran to my brakes, and I have the power from my brakes ran to the brake controller. Okay, the way this works is this wire right here is attached to your brake lights. So when you step on the brake pedal and power is applied here, it tells the brake controller to turn the brakes on. Except for, you're going to see one difference. Okay? Kind of zoom in on this light. Get where you can see this screen and this light. Okay? When I touch this on, you're going to notice that when I put power to this, you saw the brake controller go from 0 to 5.5, and you saw the light go from very dim. I'll do it again. You saw the light go from very dim to brighter. The purpose of that is, instead of the brakes coming on full force and skidding the tires to a stop, what's happened here is as you step on the brake pedal, the brakes are ramped up and they come up slowly. Now there's a button on the side of this that says positive and negative. Okay, when I hit positive, I'm able to actually put the brakes all the way up to 10. Okay, what that means is this gives me 10, 9.5, 9, 8.5, 8, and all the way down to 0.5. I'll bet I can go. Okay, 0.5. When I set this brake controller to 0.5, that means my brakes are going to come on a 0.5%. Well, we'll call it 5%. My brakes are going to come on 5%. When I put it on 10, my brakes are going to come on 100%. Okay? So if I touch my brake pedal right now, can you see that that light's lit? It's lit, but it's barely lit, right? When would we use that? Well, we use that when the trailer's empty, there's no weight on it, and we don't want to skid the tires down the road because the brakes came on so hard. Now, if I need more brake than that, I can reach down here. Now, currently this is hooked up. That simulates that we're touching our brakes. We're driving down a hill and our brake pedal is on, our brake lights are on, and our brake lights are telling this brake controller to put power to the rear axle, to the trailer brakes. If I hit the plus sign on this, I can actually turn the brake controller up, okay? And you can see the light getting brighter and brighter as I go to each one of these numbers. All the way to 10. That's full brakes, okay? I let off on the brake pedal and the brakes on the trailer come off. Now when I'm set to 10, what you're gonna see happen is when I touch this, you're gonna see it ramp up to 10. And I just lost my power, hang on. Let's get this hook back up. That's the disadvantage of trying to just cob this stuff together. Sometimes it doesn't want to stay for you. There we go. Okay, so the other button I've got on here is changing from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it only goes to 9, okay? I think what that's going to do is it's going to determine how quickly this goes up. Okay, let's do it again and watch that. Yeah, did you see how fast the brakes came on? Look at that. Zing, right up to high. So if I turn this all the way down to 1, what's going to happen now is the brakes are going to come on very slow. Okay? And you can see that by how quickly the light lights. So why is that? Again, do you want this brake controller to react? The problem with electric brakes is if it's power on, power off, it doesn't know how much brake you want to put on. When you step on a brake pedal, that's hydraulic. The harder you push on the pedal, the more brake power you get. Well, with this, as soon as you put your foot on the brake pedal and you cause the brake lights to come on, it's the brake lights that tell this thing to turn on. It doesn't know if you're stomping on the brakes or if you're just barely touching the brakes. So this is the way you can adjust that to tell the brakes how you want them to react. Okay? So that's the controls of how this brake controller works in the truck and why there's a brake controller in the truck and what that brake controller does. Okay? Now, the other thing that a lot of these brake controllers have is I've unhooked this wire, so now my brakes are off, but a lot of these brake controllers have a manual lever, okay? And you can actually activate the manual lever. You can see that. You can see the light get dim and bright depending on where I put this lever at, right? I'm not stepping on my brake pedal at all. There's no power ran to this, but this is me manually actuating my trailer brakes. So if you wanted to test the trailer brakes and see if they work, you could pull the truck forward and while it's rolling, you could just pull on this lever, and if you felt the brakes come on the trailer, you would know that this box is functioning back to the trailer. That might be something that a law enforcement officer may ask you to do in a road stop if they want to determine whether your trailer brakes are working or not working. Is they may say, hey, I want you to roll the truck ahead and actuate your brake controller so that they can see the brake controller stop the truck without the brake lights of the truck coming on. If the brake lights of the truck come on, then they know that you're hitting the brake pedal, and maybe it's the truck brakes that are stopping the vehicle, not the trailer brakes. Okay? This also can be used in like a snowy or icy condition. If the trailer were to start to fishtail on you, what you could do is activate the trailer brakes and it would straighten the trailer out without putting you into some sort of a slide or a skid from applying your truck brakes. Okay? So that's the truck side of this. All of this wiring runs through the plug that has the lights and everything in it that plug into the bumper of the truck. Okay? Let's take this and we're going to just slide it over here a little bit, and I'm going to unhook the trailer brakes, and we're going to move them over here. Okay? And now there's another component that's on the trailer that you need to be aware of. And that's the emergency brake portion of a trailer brake setup. This is everything that's on the truck, and this is how the brakes actuate when you're normally using them. Now we're going to talk about the emergency side of the brakes and how that works. So all electric trailer brakes are going to have a box like this. Guess what's in this box? One of these batteries. Okay? All this box is an auxiliary power supply. So it's going to hook to the ground. Okay? Here's our ground circuit coming from the truck. All right, and then I'm going to take another ground, hook it right into that as well, and hook it into our brakes. Okay. And then I don't have enough red jumpers, so we'll change colors here a little bit. I'm going to take this white wire, and this is my power going to my brakes. Okay. And we knew that went there, right? So if I come over here and I still touch this, what's going to happen? My brakes come on nice and slow. Must be I've got to set it to a real slow setting. Okay? So you can probably see that the brake controller is coming on and that's coming on, right? Okay. This black wire is a charge wire. This wire gets hooked to the battery, and that's to keep this battery charged all the time. Okay? I'm not going to hook it up right now, because I know the battery's charged and I don't want to add more wires here to confuse you. But normally this would be wired into the plug that goes right to a constant power supply on the truck. And all the purpose of this is to make sure this battery is always charged up. Okay? So we're going to just tuck that wire back here for now. Now this blue wire, just to prove that this battery is charged, if I touch this blue wire to this power supply right here, my brakes come on. You see that? Except for they don't come on slowly, they come on full. All at once, I get full brakes. Okay, you see that? So I need a way to hook this battery into my trailer brakes so that if the trailer comes loose from the truck and it tears all this wiring away, I need a way to get the trailer to stop without the truck even being attached to it. All right? So I'm going to do that through this cable here called a trailer breakaway. All right, we got a lot of extra wire, but all that this breakaway is a switch. And I'm going to show you how it's wired, but then I'm going to tuck some of the wires out of the way so that we're not looking at them. So there's one side of it. So what I'm doing is I'm sending power through this wire, okay, all the way up to this brake controller right here. Okay, or this breakaway. They call it a breakaway switch. All right, and then the other side of that breakaway switch, I'm going to hook into my power delivery to my brakes. So you can see my brakes are not on currently, right? Let's get this stuff separated so that we can kind of see. I'm going to have to hold this in my hand to show you how it works. So this mounts to the tongue of the trailer. We've seen pictures of this in the presentation. And this cable hooks to the truck, all right? And the purpose of this is that if the trailer dislodges from the truck and becomes unattached to it anymore, and the trailer is driving down the road on its own, we want the brakes to come on somehow. So you can probably already tell what's going to happen. When I pull this cable, there's a switch in here that's going to make a connection between these two terminals, or between these two wires. It's going to take power from this battery through the blue wire into the switch, back from the blue wire into this and to the brakes. So when I pull these apart, okay, my brakes on my trailer come right on full. When I push it back in, the brakes turn off. So I pull it apart, I get brakes. I push it back in, I get no brakes. Okay? So let's look at that some more. Let's talk about the truck becoming dislodged from the trailer. So right now we know that this is our truck. If I touch my brake pedal, I turn my brakes on. Oh, wrong wire. Why did that turn on quick? Because I hit the wrong wire. This wire right here is the one that goes to the brakes pedal. So when I turn this on, we're going to see the brake controller grow slowly, and we're going to see the trailer brakes come on slowly, right? They start dim and they get more and more and more forceful as they go. And if the trailer's empty and we don't want it to have that much power, we can always turn it down manually, and look at the light get dimmer when we turn it down. Now, if I hit my brake pedal, it only goes up to what I set it to. If I've got a full load on the trailer and I want it to stop better, I can turn it up, turn it all the way up to, what does that say, 9? Yep. And then when I let off on my brakes, every time I touch it, it's going to come up to 9 and stop. Okay? So my brakes are working the way they're supposed to. And right now, this right here is my trailer plug. This is my breakaway. And then I also have tow chains and I've got a hitch. But let's say the hitch on the truck was real rusty and it just fell right off the truck as we were going down the road. And now the trailer and the truck separated from each other. Okay? So what's going to happen in that case is we're going to remove, we've removed this wiring, because this wiring just got ripped right out of the truck, right? The truck is over here. The trailer is over here. They're no longer connected to each other. The trailer is taking off out of control, except our cable activates our trailer brakes and the trailer comes to a stop all by itself. Okay? How is a law enforcement officer going to test this when you're at a road stop? Here's what he's going to do. He's going to say, hey, I'm going to pull your emergency cable. I want you to drive ahead and I want to see the brakes holding on your trailer. Okay? So all this stuff will still be hooked up. He'll just go like that and say, pull ahead. And if you can pull ahead and roll easily and the trailer brakes don't hold the truck from rolling, then he knows that this isn't working, the trailer brakes aren't working, blah, blah, blah. If you go to pull ahead and the trailer is dragging, then he'll know that the trailer brake emergency stuff is working and you'll pass, okay? So the number one problems we have with this stuff is the cables drag on the ground until the point that they just are no longer there. Or the cable is not hooked up and it's just spun around and wound up and zip tied back here. Or one of the other problems we have is the cable is wound through the chain, and that's a problem because if the chain breaks, then it might break the cable without actually pulling this out. So what the length of this, the length of this cable should be long enough to allow the trailer to turn without activating this. Obviously, if you turn one way and it pulls it out, that's no good because it'll be putting your brakes on for you. You want this to be short enough, or you want it to be long enough to be able to allow the trailer to turn, but you want it short enough that if the trailer comes off the ball and is able to start separating from the truck, and before the chains get tight, you want this to pull out. So this should be shorter than the chains, but long enough to allow full mobility of the trailer. Okay? And that is how an electric trailer brake setup works. And this is the entire basis of an emergency breakaway system on an electric trailer brake. The end.